Okay. Yeah, for some reason, when I tried to open a chat GPT account, it says it's not available in our region. So I've tried with VPN, and I've tried when I was in Thailand, and it still says the same thing. It's like, okay. I mean,
Really?
it's not like chat GPT is the only tool out there. There's so many AI tools, and I have several, but I just thought that was interesting. But
That is strange. I mean, I guess it just shows it's regional, and I mean, the thing is, it's like, holy cow, will you, if you want to find out about someone, if you want to find out how they think, you want to think about what they're researching and what they're working on, basically, you're giving your full set of questions to this one source that, if you wanted to accumulate a lot of data on people, holy cow, like this is an incredible tool. Like it's far more telling, let's say, than Google searches in
of course,
terms
of course. But the only thing that I've seen that is a bit wary is that there's so many very, very lifelike voice simulators. So if they get enough of your image and enough of your voice, then they can make videos with your voice. And there was one that, because I kind of a side thing that I do is I specialize a lot in marketing automations. And there was a tool that I'm using called Groove Funnels. It's one of many, but and so the founder of it was doing a video about his AI stuff. So it's not 100% lifelike because he's very kind of droopy and wrinkly, and so it was a spruced up version of him, but the whole video was done just taking a few snippets of his voice and his image, and him releasing the software. 100% of it was that, and it was believable enough, put it that way. There was not like the old school like Android sounding voices. It was only if you've watched enough of his videos you'd say he's not as tired looking as Mike usually is.
Yeah, what a world we're moving into, especially in this year, right? This is the year of AI just exploding.
Yeah.
Pretty much changing everything.
Yes. Yeah, especially in a lot of the marketing things that I do. It's just phenomenal. There's even tools that correct what AI can't do. Like, if you do an article in Chat GPT, it's going to show up like 99% stolen or copied. Whereas there's software that you can then put it into that rephrases it so that it comes up as almost 0%. So it's like there's already people correcting for the.
What is that? What is that one?
I can't remember. I'll send it to you.
Okay, because I remember seeing something like two, and I didn't check it out yet, but that would be hugely. That's the next step, I guess, for me to run it through.
Wait, I'm just checking some of the tools. I'm just putting these in the chat. These are some of the tools that are pretty amazing.
Awesome, thank you.
But I took a screenshot of that one because I haven't used it yet, but there was someone talking about it. I think you can just click on the three little dots to the side of it and copy it, paste it.
Okay, yeah, I'm just actually writing a book. Some things I'd like to have in copy form.
Right.
So do you want to, I guess we got to sort of maybe get to know each other a bit. Do you want to give a bit of a download about your background and lead up to where you're at now and what you're really working on, what really turns your crank kind of thing, and also I guess because I brought up a bit before, like what are your, I'd like to know your philosophical inclinations about the future and sort of where you see yourself positioned, because I think basically marketing of courses, it has tremendous leverage, and I think like the whole future is basically education and everyone training everybody, but being much more niche marketed and being much more specific, like or at least I'm very interested in the content creation side and then the receiver side and the system to connect them together.
Yeah, okay. My background, I've always been a creative director. So yeah, uh, I moved to Tokyo when I was 20, like straight out of I went to a school called Art Center and got a degree in graphics advertising. So I've always been creative director. But then when I moved to Hong Kong 27 years ago, I set up my first web development company. So in 96. Not many people were building websites in 96. So Volkswagen was my first client. I've stayed in the tech creative side, becoming like an expert in social media and then digital marketing, while still doing the creative stuff. And so I had that whole side of me. And then I also, when I moved to Hong Kong, 27 years ago, I became Reiki master. I've always been interested in the Akashic records, and it's part of who I am at soul level to bring the Akashic records to people in not just in this lifetime. It's what I do in each reincarnation. So even as a kid, I was really into Edgar Cayce and his things around the Akashic records, but it wasn't until like maybe 10 years ago that I found a teacher that had a protocol, so you weren't doing it in intuitively, because the Akashic records is on such an etheric level that there is soul enmeshment, or there can be. So it's really not something you want to play with. And so then I found this protocol. I did several levels of that protocol, so I have a lot more questions that I answer or ask.
Could you just back up for a second? Just what you said, that you explain a little bit more in depth what you just said about the negative possibility or consequences.
Okay, the simplest terms, like when I'm sure you know more than most people, but if I'm talking to someone that doesn't know the Akashic records, or knows about the Akashic records but not about soul enmeshment, is that this is the 3D, we can touch ourselves, we're three-dimensional. At a more etheric level, 4D, 5D is where the Akashic records are. It's at a very etheric level. So there's no, if 4D is more like air, then it's more etheric. So it's more likely that there will be some sort of soul entanglement if you're working intuitively with another soul, if I'm connecting with another soul. So I backed away from that. I had a few teachers.
Okay, soul entanglement. What do you mean by that?
That you can be like literally connected with someone else. And I've never done it because I just don't want to, but I've talked to people who've done my readings versus and someone who just sits there and reads your Akashic records, and they will feel that they felt violated. And it's like, okay, yeah, because
So you're saying on the etheric level, when you're doing a reading, that you're basically enmeshing in the actual soul energy field, or the soul.
Yeah, it's like, because you're tapping into the knowledge of that soul. It's not like it's because I've never done it. I don't know what that looks like. I was just warned about it. And I've always felt like really like drawn to the Akashic records, but not wanting to do it on anyone but myself until I found a protocol. And so and I know people that do the Akashic records, and they're like, that's dangerous shit. They like, stay away from that. And like, but I can find a way. I will find a way. And then I found a teacher who was able to teach me a very strict protocol. So I use dowsing, ask certain questions, and then I get very clear yes or no. And so it's more, when I do a reading, I'm not telling someone, this past life stuff. People can't handle their own life now, this incarnation, let alone all the past shit they've done. So it's like, I will maybe, because I'm looking for blocks and restrictions from past lives as well as this one. So I might say something like, Elijah, 20 lifetimes ago, you were incarnated as a woman, you were bound into marriage by contract, and you broke free, and thus you have these characteristics that are still with you. Because a lot of it is crap that we get rid of, but things that are still stuck with you, it's like that will affect every single lifetime. And
Did you
so,
just read that on me? Like, is that like,
no, I don't do the intuitive stuff. Nope,
that's just
no.
okay, just checking.
But I'm not going to go into, where it was, what war you killed someone in, or, I'm not going to do that because people don't need the stories, and I don't check that. It's not my knowledge to know. And I forget, like within 24 hours of a reading, it's gone. It's not my knowledge. I just gave it to you. It's an opportunity to change. Here's the things that you need to work on. Here's how to work on them in the 3D. And
But
then
you just said that you don't do the enmeshing kind. So how is your reading different from that?
because I act a very strict protocol. I'm like, literally, I picture myself going up. I go into a computer and I find the name. I find the soul by their date of birth, their name at birth, their nothing to do with astrology. Just there's not that many souls that would have been born in the place that you were born at the time when you were born with your name and your current name. So some people have a born name and a current name. So yeah, there's all kinds of things around that as well. But I literally picture myself Googling, and then I just sit there and I ask questions and I get yes or no answers that are coming through my unconscious. So it's like I'm dowsing, my fingers are actually not moving, but there's little things coming through my unconscious that actually makes it go yes or no. And so I'm asking in the protocol, very, about contracts, vows, this, that, whatever. It's very strict. And then I close it out. Like, okay, thank you. And I close it out and I go in my little elevator back down through 3D mentally. But it would be nice to have a little elevator. But so that's what I'm talking about. It's very strict. It's like Googling. It's very much removed. I'm just asking the soul information.
Right. And so how do you bet, like, what percentage of your like to do that versus your other things?
Okay, let me continue with what I do. So I had like the whole, the creative, the digital marketing side, and then the more esoteric side. And then I married those into a coaching program where I was working with entrepreneurs, usually, only conscious, impact-driven entrepreneurs, because that's who only people I want to work with. One of those was Lori Breton, who I mentioned, and so then I was having like really good success, and all of them wanted to create courses. They were like, "This is amazing! I love this group dynamic, and I want to do this. I want to teach." So I was like, because they knew I had a tech background, they were like, "Can you help me set up courses and do that?" It's like, okay, but then. So I was contemplating how I was going to do that, because I know for a fact everyone, like you just said, you hate writing, or you don't really like the process of long writing, and that in courses just involve that. So there's the content, and then there's the tech overwhelm. Most people cannot get their heads around building a funnel to market it. And if you have a course that's not marketed, it's an expensive hobby. It's not a business. So, and you're not actually getting it out to the people that you want to be helping. It's like the marketing has to be baked into it as you build it. So I was looking at how I could overcome those challenges for people. And then, Gino Yu. So he approached me, and long story short, I ended up being the CEO of one of the projects in the Genosphere.
Which one?
It was called supernatural.nft, and I changed it to heal.art, and then there was a heal.me that was way too close and it could have legal ramifications. So now it's called Zenful. So if you look at zenfulwellness.io, that's the project.
Okay.
But it's a wellness Web3 company. And so I was trying to fundraise for that. I was also in Bali shooting 21-day healing quests with dealing with trauma, a lot more than Calm or Headspace, where they're just like telling you a bedtime story and, you go to sleep.
As you're the main facilitator, or you're filming it?
I was filming other people. I did 2 of them. I did one on basically meditation 101. So 21 days, let's give you a buffet of different meditation styles. And hopefully by the end of the 21 days, you've increased your time of meditating, plus you've tried several styles. The advanced one I did, I was just like straight into, this is going to be like 20 minutes, and we're going to do like, I'm going to go through the relevant to a layperson, the relevant yoga sutras. And we're just going to focus on a yoga sutra, the yamas, the niyamas, and you end up with samadhi. And those will be, we'll go through a sutra and then we will meditate on it for 20 minutes. So that was the more advanced part, very structured, whereas the previous one was just like, just try these things, have a buffet. And so I did one, there was 6 others and a couple other in the pipeline of 21-day healing quests. There was also three hypnosis ones on trauma, inner child work, and getting over relationships or something, that were hour-long hypnosis sessions. So it was more like, there was someone who was using Tantra. There was people that were having their own, like everyone who has a healing practice, if they have a one-to-many, like Akashic Records is not one-to-many, it's a one-on-one. But I was looking at people who had a one-to-many experience, and I was getting them to do 21-day healing quests. But then the Luna tanked, and then the whole crypto market tanked, and so it wasn't the best time to be raising funds with a token that doesn't exist in a market where nobody wants tokens. And so the project was being incubated, and that got pulled end of August. So then I was like, okay, now I'll refocus on the coaching thing, but I'll focus this time on course creation. I'll still eventually do the business strategy based on who people are at soul level, because that was just super fun and successful. But I wanted to get the course creation going. So I found a tool that will actually write the content for you. It's very simple inputs. It goes into templates. The templates are not AI. They're based on someone who's been building courses and marketing them successfully for like 10 years. So he's done the 20-80% rule. What's the 20% that got the 80% results? He's put those into templates. Boom. You have software that just, very simple software. You just put in everything is always like in 3 steps. And then each step or each stage has 3 steps. So it's 9 steps. And then each of those has 3 actions for each step. So you wind up with 27 actions, but it breaks it down into baby steps. So you're not screwing with the amygdala too much and like yanking people too far too quickly. And so, although some of my people are, they're creating courses on like, getting comfortable with your divine feminine. And it's like, when you're taking someone from 0 to like, I can't even look at myself in the mirror, to yoni gazing in like 2 steps, you're going to be like, that person's not going to be in their comfort zone. So we're having to break those down into smaller courses.
Right.
But anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at now. It's not like, I mean, a side note, I'm a tech diver. So I used to teach big military guys to go to 100 meters with funny gases. So I've been teaching courses for like 25 years. And so, it was diving courses, then it was social media courses, then it was digital marketing courses. So it's like course creation is not hard for me, but it's, it's just one of the things that, like, I'm pretty consistent with what I do. All of it has some sort of tech, all of it has some sort of creative, and all of it has some sort of consciousness space into it. And so course creation happens to be it at the moment. I could go back to or run at this concurrently the business strategy for conscious entrepreneurs. So that's like me in a nutshell in terms of what my work is.
Okay. I got a quick question that comes to mind first. What about curation? Have you as that art, how high do you go in abstract development of curriculum? Like, do you, like, when you're, I mean, as an independent consultant, let's say you're working with a lot of independents, right? Do you ever have larger curriculums that you fit them into, or connect all your clients together, or create a bigger kind of, like, I guess a bit like a school, but I'm just wondering about that.
No, I mean, because right now I've got 3 people on beta testing with my current system. So they've each paid like 3,000 something, but there's I had 5, and oh, actually Hajnal was one of them, and she just didn't get into the, like, she was coming to Hong Kong and then she was going back to, yeah, so she just didn't kind of get into the flow of what we were doing. I think it's a bit too structured for the way that she's thinking. And so she just I think she came to 1, and then there was another woman, she was doing hers on miscarriage, and she miscarried for the 3rd time. And so I was like, this is not the right time for you to be talking about healing through miscarriage when you've just miscarried again. So I've just said, you can come back and do it anytime. She's a very good friend, but this is not the time for you to be, poking that bear. And so now I'm down to 3 beta testers, and then I just started a membership because it was like, okay, I'm charging these people a fair amount, and but I want to serve everyone, because there's the wise elders, there's people that cannot use tech, that cannot, and I want this to be accessible to them. So I just started a 200 per month membership where people can go in, they can learn about course creation. There's also mindset, because most people don't have the mindset to be able to release with confidence, both their knowledge and financially charge what they're worth. So it has mindset components that will be in there, but I just started building it this week, so there's not a lot of content in there. So there's a membership. And then there's the option to upgrade and work with me in a group context, or upgrade further and work with me, one-on-one. So that's that whole system. And I'm pretty pleased that I was able to find a way to do the 200, like the low entry point membership, because there are so many people that have so much knowledge that can't necessarily afford what I'm charging to work in a very small group setting or one-on-one. So that's, and I mean, I'm using super simple text so that people can repeat what I'm doing.
That question about your philosophy about the future, sort of our species, and just like, where do you see the next 5 years going? And then how do you want to align your work with that?
It's funny because I've gotten to a certain point where if I just focus on digital marketing, it's very, very unsuccessful. I realize I'm reverse manifesting, or instead of manifesting abundance, I'm manifesting lack, because I need to be in the more consciousness spiritual space, because that's just where I'm at vibrationally. And so I think there's a lot of people, and I connected through a lot of people through the Zenful experience, some of the advisors and people that are in the consciousness space, and depends on the levels of what you're talking about. One woman I was working with, she's an angel channeler, and she's very much like talking about, the battle that's been going on against, good versus evil. Another advisor, and she's like, she's witnessing this as well. This is not on a, more of a physical plane, but, there will be a keyhole opening. The people that are on the good path will go through that, and, how the world's going to pan out. I think it's going to be like a total shit show before it pans out into something more solid and more love aligned. And so that's my view of how it's going to go down. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I know that there's been a battle like of good and evil going on, and there's a lot of people that are in that, like the good fight, trying to like hold space for that, and like, and as far as, I mean, I'm not in any way inclined intuitive in that way. So I'm not knowing I'm just hearing from the people that I know and that I trust as advisors. And yeah, it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on at an etheric level. It's very interesting. I had an angel conference, because our first round of NFTs were angel NFTs. So it's this beautiful, artists doing these angel NFTs. So we had an angelic summit. So it was all these angel channelers, and I was introducing this woman who was helping me, or she was actually running it. I was busy filming, but So I introduced an angel channeler that I know from, she's more in the Guanyin energy, more Asian, and introduced her a few people, but this one woman, they got together for like a 15-minute chat, and they realized that they were on, some council on a much more angelic, etheric level. They're like, oh, you're that person that's what your body looks like. And then they had like a 3-hour chat about, all the stuff that's happening. So when I'm with people like that, I love it. I love, when there's not just when they're talking about real stuff that's going on, but that most people would be like, their mind would fall off their head if they heard about. That I quite enjoy, as opposed to, meeting with friends and talking about, do you like this cheese kind of thing. It's like, I don't know, I don't care.
Well, I know what you mean by that one. What about how do you think AI is going to affect us over the next 5 years?
Depends. It's in whose hands it's going to be in. Isn't it that Elon Musk has done a lot to keep it out of the hands of Google?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just different layers. There's different layers of everything. And I find that, it's hard to discern a lot of times. I mean, Elon Musk, I hear good things and the opposite side, right? I mean, Neuralink into the satellite system, into AI could be, the worst nightmare. And yet he's warning everyone about AI. There's always the controlled opposition, but what he's done in Twitter has just been incredible, to release all that information to show just how corrupt it is, and actual factual evidence that cannot be refuted, and brings that into the public eye. That's pretty strong to me. So, but I just, at those higher levels, it's kind of difficult to know who's in whose pocket. I mean, I fundamentally don't trust nearly anybody who's kind of at the top in whatever way.
Well, if you're looking at like who are like the intrinsically bad, or the lizard people, or whatever you want to call it, it's like, look at Trump. Yeah, he's a scumbag. But is he the scumbag? No, it's the people that are controlling him. Yeah, he's just a front scumbag. There's actual real evil behind him. And you don't see that evil. I don't think you really see the real evil. So if someone's really up in front of, they've probably done some sort of selling their soul to the devil on some level, but I don't think that they're necessarily the devil. Elon Musk is a kind of weird one because he's more independent. Someone like Trump, he's just a front guy for what I think is a lot of evil in terms of things. I mean, the fact that they chose such a rotten kind of human being to be their front person is kind of weird, but yeah. But the intrinsically not trusting people at the top is probably a good idea, because there has to, I'm a really big supporter of Obama, but there's selling of the soul to the devil at some level to get to the presidency.
Well, and he also is dropped the most bombs than any president ever. I mean, yeah. But so I mean, my problem is that I do attach too much attention to monitoring and trying to assess that, because I feel that what you brought up about the AI recognition is going to be what is used to bring in the digital ID, and then from that digital ID is every other sort of type of control mechanism that we won't have a chance, in a sense. I mean,
it's like, think how easy it will be to start scamming grandmas. I jump on a Zoom call with grandma. I look like me, I sound like me, grandma, I'm really, that's at the very basic, Nigerian scam level. Think of the higher levels that it can go.
For sure. So it's going to come in one way or the other, whether it's full government control and then they're able to turn off your bank account because you tweeted something. I don't know, but I mean, that's that's almost proven to exist with what they did to the truckers' bank accounts. Like I hope there's some sort of digital ID that has a sort of an independent citizen sort of ownership, right? 'Cause so much
I mean,
has
that's
been.
why a lot of people got into crypto, and they're thinking the crypto, because you can't make crypto disappear. It's like, if it's your crypto, it's your crypto. You can't. There was something in Canada where the government or someone was saying like, oh, this guy is a bad guy, like freeze his accounts. And they're like, what? It was like, it wasn't Coinbase, but it was like one of those places where people, it was a wallet. It wasn't, anyway, it wasn't any one of the main wallets, but they were like, we don't, this person is a number, we don't know who they are. We can't freeze their crypto. It's crypto. That's why.
Yeah.
And so when I was recently in Thailand for a couple months, and there was big signs on some, because there's a lot of Russians in Phuket, and it was a lot of signs in English and Russian saying you can buy property with crypto here, because they don't have, they're not getting money out of the country, but if they've got crypto, they're fine.
Right. Big changes. So I sent you a whole string of things and you've seen a bit of it before, I guess, with Lori. What can you give me an analysis, or was it enough to sort of get where I'm going a bit? Or
the only thing is like, I don't know anything about your system other than Lori telling me that it was amazing and she's using it for her program and all this, but like you're talking about, you're working on this manual. That's going to be the kicker. Like how lowest common denominator can you bring these so that it's not too high level for people to use? Because if you're thinking about the average Joe, the way it is now, nice color change, the way it is now, you're targeting like 0.0001 of the educated population that might get what you're talking about. You have to dumb that down to a certain extent so that they can access the higher levels of what you have to offer. And that's what I'm talking about with the girls that I'm working with that are having really big subjects. One of them is doing the good girl, the good girl who's always saying, oh yeah, that's okay. And so it's like, I was like, that's way too, there's you could write a whole course on setting boundaries, let alone like that. So I'm like, okay, make a foundation where you talk about like why people are like this, and the foundation, take them from like learning how to climb before you take them to like to the base camp of Mount Everest. You've got a whole big huge mountain to climb here, but let's just take them baby steps. So with you, I would think break it down into something that people can actually work with on a foundational level, and then you can take them deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. But I would say, what's the most basic version of what you've got that people can start with, so that when you're sending me all these things and I'm like, okay, this is all going like this, because it's like I'm just kind of skimming through it. What could you send me that I could go, oh, this is interesting. This is, I get what you're doing. This is the simple version. I want to dive deeper into this, and to know that I can, like all of my current course creators, they're not creating one course, they're creating a more foundation course, and then they're creating like the good girl one, and then she's going into the good girl in the family context, the work context, the relationship context, with the girl who's diving into the embodying the feminine. It's like she's working on the body, and then the emotional, and then sisterhood. And so we're breaking these down into having like several sequence of courses.
sure.
I think you might know Stephen Altair. He's one of this like genosphere of people. He's doing it on the energy of Guanyin, but he's got like, the basic one, and then the more advanced, and then he's doing teacher training, and then advanced teacher training. So he's got like different layers. So with yours, it's like, maybe you create like a basic version, and then you do the more advanced and the more advanced and the more advanced.
For sure. For sure. I mean, I've been working on this 25 years, so I've sort of, I'm beyond. I mean, you know, what you're saying has been told me so many times, but of course, whatever I think is the simplest is not even close to what is actually necessary. I always go to this map saying, okay, this is the simplest, this is the beginning, right? You're in the present moment, and you choose. You choose either the old paradigm or the new paradigm, either love or fear. And that's the beginning of entry into this whole new paradigm, because what I'm suggesting is we can build a whole new system where we have to. And if we don't, we're always going to get caught in here, in that muck that will not end and stop, and it just eradicates people like you and me who are actually trying to change that, or try to resist that, you know, in any big way. I mean, there's a lot of good people who just get that crap kicked out of them in here, right? But here, you know, to me, if you actually create supportive infrastructures, and you know, it's just like what you're saying with Gino, right? I mean, he's aiming at creating a global network to help those that are awakening, right? And I think that that's a good target market. That's, and there's awakened ones and there's spiritual masters who are already there, but they're the ones who may not have the particular funnels built towards those people that need them. And so to me, when I was asking about, you know, what are your higher level connective either networks or curriculums or whatever it is, because I'm operating at an architect level, system architect level. So and I'm putting forth that I've got the system of all systems. I've got a large enough language structure to fit everybody's courses in here. And so what Hajnal is doing, or what I think she's doing or wants to do, is create an international health organization for women. And I think it's branching out to everybody, but it might start as just for women. And then if it, let's say, aims into those that are awakening as part of, you know, because I think what we need is a lot of allyships. We got to look at what is everybody doing and what are all the different visions and what, you know, and start to piece them together and connect them. And so that's, again, what I'm playing with is a language infrastructure to connect everybody. And so I can sort of see pieces of the puzzle. So when I get a download of who someone is and what they're working on and what scope it is, I sort of see where it fits. And then now it's like all across the planet, right? There's all these awakened beings, there's all these spiritual masters, there's all these people who want to do good for the planet, but they're not connected. And the normal infotech structures get in the way of that. And they're not particularly that collaborative, and they're not that great for project management. And you probably see it, right? Like we actually either have to put the infotech together in a simple way that gives you everything you need, like with the project management, the CRM and your email, like all that infotech needs to be connected. And what I'm suggesting is you start with the language architecture first, and then you build the infotech with it. So I've been waiting for the software to catch up to whatever this is, because this is actually a big operating system that actually is going to build a new paradigm. So I know that's kind of aiming high, aiming big, and whenever I really get into it, I sound absolutely crazy to me and everybody else, because I've been aiming at designing the impossible. You know, I change the world's economic system, like good luck, buddy. But if you just aim and you work consistently and you bring in the big guy, big cheese, and ask to be used, then, you know, amazing things happen. And I've experienced it to the point where, at least in my own thinking, I can see how to do it. I can, you know, I recognize there's certain skills that I've manifested from 20,000 hours of conceptual design, which is seem to be kind of unique. And granted, with these tools that I've built, to use the tools to actually do things which I've never seen anywhere else. And part of that is designing courses in sort of unique ways. And based upon this card set, conscious communication card set, where I've identified certain communication types, convo types, that are pretty obvious: storytelling, explanation, you know, needs analysis, but they're codified. They're codified on a business operating system. And then you can add values in to actually bring intention in. And I think whenever you bring values into anything, you're bringing in the higher aspects of spirituality or intention or, I mean, every major business or spiritual practice is going to focus on love or gratitude or humility or courage, or they're always values, right? So I think that our spiritual evolution is linked to these values, and values aren't no big thing on a card set, but when you bring together combo types, that's when you bring in, I'll just change it again, like this. God, I wish I worked for Zoom. There's so many things you could do with this that they don't do that would be useful. That's what always bugs me, right? Like I get into software systems and there's always so much potential that is not. So like even this, like to me, I would want to write my name at the top and your name and maybe put in, be able to frame the conversation. Can't even do that, right? We can't do that unless I take this into an editing program and then do that. But you know, the idea that, let's say I'm in a storytelling, I'm trying to be funny, may not occur right now, but the idea that you can create a frame for the conversation I want to have, you may have a different one or you may have the same one, but unless you have understanding what these are, it's not really mean much. But to me, it's moving into a place where human beings can switch. Okay, I'm telling you a story and here it is, and then boom, I'm going to switch and go over to a motivational one, or I'm going to try to pump you up around what you're doing, kind of thing. Or I'm going to go into a needs analysis where you're trying to figure out, you know, who you are and what you need and what you're doing. So we're always unconsciously going in and out of these combo types. And good professional business people are very good at it, and they have their own process of doing it. But what I've done is a codification system, which then you can start to create these little formulas. And then the other 4 card sets are actually lenses at 4 different levels. Do you know Ken Wilber's internal theory? Basically, individual and group, inner and outer. So you have the inner individual, outer individual, inner group, and outer group. So for me, it's like me inside myself, me talking to you, me in a group, and then me in this larger community. And each one of them is a different perspective. And so that's one of the models I've used within this whole system I'm working on, because it's universal, right? Everyone has those 4 quadrants. And so if we find the universal models, then start to use them for software design. That's one thing that software isn't doing, and that's going to be the place where software is going, where we use these models to dictate information flow. Like if we have Maslow's hierarchy as a model, and you're coming to the system of survival versus someone who's coming into the system of self-actualization, 2 different people, right? 2 different methodologies. And that's what I think Gino's doing. He's creating a system where he's looking at people who are coming in at the emergency level, and then looking to stabilize them, and then looking to make them thrive, right? That you're coming in from maybe the health side, and then else coming through the health side, or bringing in the healers, or bringing in the therapists, or bringing in a whole system of people that might be different, let's say from the educational or the coaching side, or the other side's angles that to me are represented by lenses, which are on these cards, which dictate a whole thinking system that when you have the card set and then you have software programmed with it, all of a sudden we got a whole different way of communicating as human beings, where I can choose this, press a button, and take you through a process where I'm using these combo types and values to structure the course. So if we're starting out with a welcoming, and then we're going to a needs analysis, and then we're going to a motivational, and we're going to a celebration, and we're going to an enrollment, and then we're going into a negotiation, and we're going into a close. That's just a basic 7-step process where I was naming conversation types, where there's over 100 of them. And if you add in values, now you have possibly billions of types of little spells that you can use to create courses. Now, the idea being that you can link that to your gift. I'll bring up one I did for Hajnal. And do you want to talk while I'm just kind of looking? Do you want to give me feedback about what I just said?
No, I mean, it makes sense, but it's also like, I'm just hearing this for the first time, so I'm just digesting it. So.
Right. It can be a lot, right? So here's, I hope Hajnal doesn't mind me showing, she's been very transparent, and we're looking at, this is an example, because I think one of the things we need to do, or which we can do, depending on, you know, how this turns out. But if we used Hajnal's idea and Hajnal herself as the prototype, if you and I look at combining our skills, because I think what I hear from you is you have this, you know, tremendous skill set that just is just so highly valuable right now. And I'm at a point of my 25 years of research of coming to the point where I'm about to enter the world. I've been working on courses. I got tons of stuff. And I call myself, let's say, an originator. And if I look at a school, there's an originator, there's administrators, there's teachers, there's facilitators, there's students, and there's clients. So I have a framework for the school of conscious communication. But basically, I see we all have a school. There's one big school that we're actually trying to make. I mean, I have a framework for one, but it would be, I'm not so sure I want to run a school. I've got 5 life works going at the same time. I've got a software called the Inflow Matrix operating system. I've got the New Paradigm Toolkit, which is card sets, games, game boards, maps, processes, and software. I've got the School of Conscious Communication. I've got the Planetary Guardians, which is the large container of sort of like a media game, but basically bringing 144,000 people together using this operating system to build a whole new system. And then the Very Secret Plan, which is a web TV show that this could be a part of. Hopefully you're okay with loading this up, where it's the story of how all the people involved bring this into the world. And so I'm Captain Sweep, and I've got this plan. And, you know, now again, it's sort of like it can be too much for people, can be a little overwhelming once they start to unleash it. But I'm learning in small steps, which I'm sure you can help me with. But I've got, on my own, I've got unending content. But what I also have is a content creation process. And then I have a whole bunch of allies linked to very interesting projects, such as Gino and Lori and others who are working at high levels with their own work. And I'm looking to be that mycelium for the mushrooms to sort of come out into the forest. Like, this is an operating system that can connect everybody together. It doesn't matter who it is. It can align with their model, whatever business model, whatever model they're using. There's a way to integrate it with what I've got. And so it's a way, you know, we're basically creating our whole other operating system, and hopefully something that's protected and safe and secure. And it's sort of, that's why I asked about your philosophical inclinations, because those other guys, they tend to attack people like us. They tend to attack things that are coming out of pure goodness at the heart.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so,
even on so many different levels, people that are, you know, organic farming, their farms burn down, or, you know, they're doing non whatever milk. Suddenly their supply goes away. You know, it's like people that are doing good outside of the mainstream can be attacked by mainstream, because
for sure. For sure. And it's very, it's unfair. And the thing is, like, good people don't think in a certain way. They think ethically, they're not looking to harm people, they're looking to do good. And they don't see it coming, right? They don't see when some organization or body or system or whatever it is has intention to harm you. And you don't think about defense, you don't think about that it's actually going to happen, because you don't think that way. That's when you get whacked. And so to me, there's a safety in numbers. Like, we need to start to band together, because we've got a lot of very intelligent people, a lot of very conscious people, a lot of people who want to really take the species in a good direction. And those people, to me, are just getting slaughtered because they're not organized, they're not connected together, they don't have a defensive infrastructure that is good for all of us. And I think that's what we need to build.
yeah, there's I think there's a splintering based on ego. And you would think that it wouldn't happen, but I've seen on so many different levels where people are like, you know, this is this is their project, this is their thing, they're leading this thing. I mean, I live on a little island in Hong Kong. At one point we had 2 animal rescue, for a community of 700 or 7,000 people, we had 2 animal rescue associations. It's like, because 2 of them argued and their ego said, I'll make my own, fuck you, kind of thing. So it's like, Greenpeace and Sea Shepherd, now Captain, whatever he's left. Captain Watson.
He just got kicked out. He just got kicked out.
Yeah, yeah, and so it's like you look at these things and you see very well-intentioned people just letting their egos get in the way of the greater purpose. And I think that's why they're so people on whatever level, in whatever kind of organization, that they're so jumbled and not connected, is because there's egos involved, and there will be people that want to rise to the top. It's like, as opposed to, let's use like a higher power as our, as our guiding group conscious or whatever. But it's like, no, it's more like, I say it's going to be this way, and so either we do it or I'm out of here, kind of thing. I don't know. It's just, that's why what you're talking about, where there's a lot of very well-intentioned, conscious people that are not connected. On the other hand, there's a lot of people that are really connected. Like Gino knows a ton of people in the consciousness space, and he's constantly going to conferences and things where there's a bunch of conscious people that are connecting in a very intentional way.
I guess it's all there, right? It's a big banquet. But you're right, divide and conquer is usually the strategy used, and it's used very well, and we basically have been divided and conquered. But I think there is, whether it's a 5D push to unity, I think there's something within us all that is yearning for a more cooperative, intelligent methodology. And at least I see, when you align with sacred geometry and when you do bring in the sacred space, yeah, to me, like, I mean, I've been around a group which everything came from one person's guidance, and that guidance was off. And so I'm not so, I think there's something in between, where whether it's by councils or by giving autonomy to every little system, like I see 4-person teams. And those 4-person teams are creating what they're creating within, again, a larger infrastructure. And it's part of a game where you can actually go from a 4-person team to a 20-person team, and then get 7 20-person teams into a team of 144 people called a shared knowledge community. And so what I see, and again, the operating system is utilizing the people to bring out their gifts within this infrastructure that supports it, by creating, I think what we will build is again a course designing structure where people can make a living, which I think is hugely important these days. Is we've got to help conscious people to take that knowledge which they've gained and now give them a platform for them to connect it to people who need it, and show how to do it, make it simple, and set up marketing systems, because there's tons of people who need the education. There's tons of people who have the knowledge, and now we need to create the methodology to bring them together. And again, I think Hajnal is sort of holding space for that to happen at a very high level. And I think that if we use the 3 of us to figure out, because I'm pretty sure each of us has pieces of the puzzle, and there's probably some other people maybe we can bring in, but we may not, depending. And to set up a sort of a prototype process that actually has a lot of leverage in it to be reproduced once it's really set up right. And I'd be willing to jump in. I mean, I've been interacting with Hajnal for the last little while, and she's on this mastermind team that has the purpose of helping me bring my work into the world. So I'm starting to team up with people, because I've been pretty much a one-man show in design and development and insanity. And I have to learn how to work with others, and I have to learn how to bring it into the world. And I'm pretty much working all the time on it, and looking for allies and looking for perhaps team members. Like, it depends. I mean, to me, kind of take it a step at a time to figure out what has to happen, but I have a sort of intuitive sense that the timing's right. World's about to go to hell. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I see myself as a bit of wizard. Maybe we're in Hobbiton and we're getting a few hobbits together who may not know it, but they're about to go on a big adventure. And to stop planting tomatoes, potatoes, and drinking their beer and get them to go out into the world a bit and perhaps build something that's just amazing in terms of the its capacity to do exactly that. Like take these content creators and take these people who need them and pop them together, and maybe me and Gino will start working together. He's always traveling around with all those people, and I'm going, hey man, I got the whole thing here. I got the whole thing here. You just have to recognize it, right? A lot of times we get sort of, it's easy to get distracted, very easy to get distracted. And to me, you got to be able to focus on the goal and focus on the right people and focus on what you're building and have a design in mind and actually build it. And I think that's where we're at right now.
Okay. Do you have an infrastructure like of people that you're thinking of working with?
Oh yeah. I know a whole bunch of other crazy people that all across Canada that very over the last 25 years while I was designing this, I was looking for people. I've just been looking for people with good heart. I've been looking for people who, you know, sort of are aiming at that bigger picture, sort of like early indigos, crystal kid, you know, people who are, they know in their heart of hearts they're supposed to be working on a larger mission that is part of their spiritual destiny. And to me, you're either, you got that going or you don't. Like you either know that and you're living it and you go, yeah, I'm in, versus what the frick are you talking about? Like there's a big gap, right? And I think now the people who have done the work, the people that have been focused on really coming into alignment with their own truth, they're the leaders of the next paradigm. They're the one, like they've got treasure inside them, and what we got to do is set it up to bring that out and bring it into the world. Like I know a lot of people who nobody knows about, but they're just filled with very high spiritual knowledge.
Yeah, when I was in Bali, it was interesting. There was a lot of people that a friend called them wounded Westerners with weaponized spirituality. And there's, you know, but I did meet some very amazing people that were, you know, just trying to do the best they can, and just, you know, their hearts shine through their eyes. I mean, they're amazing. Not tons of them. There was a lot of people that are just in Bali because they're wounded and they're looking for salvation of some sort, and they're but there were some gems there that I would love to work with again as well. But yeah. And then when I think of Canada, because you said, you know, a lot of people in Canada, it's like, aren't all Canadians really nice people?
Well, they are. Like, I mean, I think fundamentally they are. They're, I would say, a simple folk. I'd say they're very different from America. I mean, they don't sort of, like, you can just tell they don't go towards that violent aspect. Like there's a big difference between the Canadian and the American, at least to me. And I think most of Canada is in shock. Like they can't believe what has happened. Like I think the truckers really stood for something that a lot of Canadians stand for. But there's a complacency here that is so deep, and a comfort zone that is so strong that it inherently has to get quite a lot worse for, I think, them to really come to terms with our government, because our government could be the worst one on the planet right now. Like they're the most tyrannical. They're the most, like they've like, to me it's pure insanity, but people seem to put up with it in a way I can't even understand. But we'll see. Like we'll see.
Right. Yeah, My husband kept me up to speed a little bit on what was going on. I tend to steer away from reading any news because I just don't, not interested.
So you're a happy person. You're
um, yeah, he just got back. He was gone for 3 months, or no, 18 weeks. So just over 4 months. I didn't hear any news for 4 months. It was amazing.
wow. I mean, I'm a media hog, so I'm daily tracking all the horrors of the planet and instantly depressed because it's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, I really don't want to know about it. But for the holidays, I went on a silent meditation retreat. And that's just like no devices, just meditating, just like, and with amazingly beautiful, lovely beings.
Oh
And
wow, so nice.
and by the end of that, it was only 5 days long. I had somewhere else that I had said I would be, otherwise I would have stayed for an extra week or two. But it was, at the end of those 5 days of just having no social media, no outside input, I was just like, oh my God, I feel so good. Like my brain's been cleaned. I've been cleansed.
Oh
And
man,
that's
I've got Dharma envy. That's beautiful.
but yeah, they're really, and I've gone on their retreats before, and the last one was like the last like full silent one over the holidays and culminating on New Year's was 6 years ago. And there was like maybe 5 or 6 of us out of about maybe 50 people that were the same. We were on the one 6 years ago. So there's consistent people that are just, they gravitate towards that as like a New Year's reset. Because I mean, there are times where it's very conducive. Like the collective conscious will have a reset button, and New Year's is one of those where collectively we reset. And I'm not talking anything about New Year's resolutions. There is just a collective consciousness of reset. Another one, and it's mostly in India, but is Mahashivaratri. It's like you stay up all night. It's a big, huge festival. It's a reset. So there's, different reset times, but it's a very particularly good time to be doing this, like the whole silent immersion into, get out of social media, get out of news, get out of, outside stuff and just focus inside.
So are you willing to jump in a bit?
Yeah.
Do you want to explore together?
Even when I was working with Lori, I remember I did the anagrams, and just because I was working with her and I wanted her to know who she was working with. But
Right.
and she didn't go into the cards too much. But she did talk about them a little. So I've always been curious about like what she was doing. We're still in contact. She's a lovely woman.
Do you know there's I'm just wondering if I'd like to give you a taste of it, just to sort of, there's a specific 5 communication spaces map, which is the sort of the beginning of everything. And it's sort of like the beginning of structuring everything. And so how about I gift you a session where I take you through that particular map, just so you get, I think people got to experience some things really, and that's one little starting point. And then another could be perhaps we have to figure a way of maybe when she goes to Thailand, but the 3 of us talking and maybe going into a sort of looking at her being a first example, and then she care being an example, and linking it into the thing you're doing with Gino, and look to kind of like create a leverage point that has a lot of like, again, as a prototype. And then I think you'll see it once it's set up, we'll be able to, just go to town in terms of a curriculum, which we could fit a lot of, like, there's a lot that I think I just have to show you, and when you get it, you'll go, that's a good idea.
Okay.
So just, I need a little bit of trust. to get to that point, but I'm pretty sure at some point you'll go.
Okay. It was funny when just before Lori joined my course, I was running like a retreat or mastermind or whatever, and Gino came on the call with Lori, and they were both like, Elijah, blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, I need to meet this Elijah, but it was interesting the way everything happened.
Well, they're two big people, and I think that's it. Like, we're starting to come together, and each of us has a big piece, and once we put all the pieces together, we're going to have this massive, powerful network of beings who are totally psyched about, doing good things together, and having fun, and like the good side of things, right? Like honestly, like the good side of things. Like I'm not, if I got to bend my ego, or if I got, there's so many smart people around, right? And I may say that I've got the thing, but it definitely is an our thing. And I think that the idea is to bring everyone's amazing thing together in it. And once that's there, like, just be generous, right? Like, there's a lot to go around, and I think full abundance comes when humans come together in real trust and caring for one another, right? Like, different value system, and that's deep down, that's what I think most people want, right? They just want to be around caring people. They don't have to protect themselves with getting the shaft and so, just basic beautiful ethics, treat someone as you want to be treated.
Yeah.
So maybe we can send me a time where we can do a session, and then maybe another time where we can meet with Hajnal and go deeper into that.
Yeah, it's going to be an issue unless one of us moves time zones, because it's always going to be either super early or super late for someone.
Right.
There was someone I was working with. He was in Iceland and someone else in Seattle. And we really tried to get all three of us on a call, and it would be like my 4 a.m. or something. And I'd just be like, I'm really not going to be my best.
Well, and maybe you chat with her and I chat with her. Me and you chat together. Or maybe we gotta, get to know each other as one-on-ones, and then through maybe we can sort of figure it out that way, and then sort of look to see how to build it, right? Like, let's just make it work. Like, we'll just figure out how to make this work.
Yeah, that's why I finally, when she's like calculating times and things, I'm like, I'm at 7 o'clock. I'm not going to be at my best. Am I awake? Yes, but am I going to be my best? No. Same with her. You're not going to be your best at midnight or 2 a.m. So it's like, that's why I said, let's just, Elijah and I get on a call and we'll record it for you, just to make this happen rather than dicking around with times forever.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to load this up, or you can send it to me, either one.
Yeah, I recorded to cloud, so I'll just send a link to both of you guys in our little group chat.
Okay. Do you mind if I load it up?
To what?
To the Very Secret Planet.
Okay, go ahead.
This is a great call to me. I see a huge opportunity. I like what I've heard. Everything you told me about you, sounds like you're a rock star. We can get shit done, and that's what's needed right now, right? And I think you're just in a perfect position with your skill set, of bridging that tech and the high spiritual knowledge together to help people. So I'm excited.
Cool. Yeah. And let's book a session and go through, so I can get a deeper understanding of what you're actually, at least the foundation of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to get on a call with Hajnal once she's seen this, and we can kind of decompress, and she can tell me her side, her viewpoints.
Perfect. Okay. Much love to you.
Okay. Much love. Bye.
See you soon.